Is there more? Are you going to do more? I mean, I assumed with the what was it, the BMG deal and that last record that was just a lead up to something else. That's usually what those kind of deals are like. Like re-record the old stuff and then give us a new one.
Yeah, I wasn't that keen, to tell you the truth. Like I didn't like the idea of recording the old stuff, and there you go.
Yeah,
that's the point of it.
Greetings, fellow Earth babies, and welcome to Post-Punk Heartstrings. I'm Jimmy James S. Butler, and you know that if you've been listening. And if you've been listening, you probably know that this is the second half of my conversation with Mark Feldbush on Echo and the Bunnymen's album, The Stars, the Oceans, and the Moon. We went through each song and compared them to the original versions and commented on which one we preferred. We also talked a little bit about the song meanings, so anyone who loves digging into all that will enjoy this conversation. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking in this intro because it is quite a lengthy conversation. I do want to take a moment to thank everyone who is listening and who has come back for more. There are a lot of podcasts to listen to out there, so it is really amazing to me that there are a handful of you that keep faithfully coming back, and I'm so very thankful. I also wanted to mention that I'm really trying to be myself when I do these intros. It's really hard to get used to talking to a microphone instead of a person or people, and I'm really trying to let the real me out. And regarding being transparent, I got to tell you all, I am having a really tough time. I've come to realize a few things about myself, and so I've got some things I'm struggling through. And that has put me in some mental spaces where it was difficult to even sit down and do this. But I am pushing myself and remembering the little plaque that someone gave me, probably my mom, I can't remember who, that's sitting above my kitchen sink that says, "It is well with my soul." On top of that, I'm remembering that I am loved. I have wonderful friends who constantly remind me that I am loved and appreciated. And so I'm very thankful for that. Further contributing to my Black Dog moment is the fact that Andy Rourke, the bassist for the band The Smiths, passed away just a few days ago. He was very young, 59, and I'm very saddened by this. I thought about opening up this episode with one of my favorite Smiths song, Sweet and Tender Hooligan, that prominently displays Andy's bass work. But I decided I would hold off on that and save that for another time when I can dedicate an entire episode to it. So that's all I've got before we jump into Mark and I's conversation. Thanks, Mark, again for joining me. Mark will be joining me on some future episodes as well. We have a great time talking every time we talk, so I hope you all enjoy this. So without anything further from melancholy Jimmy James, here we go. All right, so if you don't have anything else on that one,
yeah, let's go on.
It's time for something completely different. Lives Like Sugar.
Yeah.
This one was really similar to the original, I think. I think a little bit of the post-punk was pulled out of it. Mostly the vocals were different, I think. The original was sort of that, what I was talking about, that sort of echoey, chamber-like vocals, and these are like more upfront vocals. I feel like the original vocals matched the tone of the song a little better, but I'm kind of like equal on this one. I liked both versions equally.
The original's really good, right? This was one of the songs that kind of, at least in the US radio, gets played,
really danceable,
if nothing else,
very
danceable, right? A song that shows up on alternative rock radio and that sort of thing. So it's one of those songs that you talk about Echo and the Bunnymen, and that's one of the songs that everybody goes to.
Right.
This new arrangement has a keyboard part that I don't think is not on the original.
Yeah,
and
that's
it
right.
sounds much more like an organ kind of in the background, and in some ways feels a little bit like the Doors. Some of the keys that you hear on the Doors albums which is an interesting nod back to their roots and a little bit of the psychedelia, right? That carries forward from the 60s into the 80s. And now into these newer arrangements in the 2020 or 2019, 2018 when this comes out.
Lips like sugar, lips like sugar. Just when you think you've caught her, she glides across the water. She calls for you tonight to share her moonlight. You fall down a river, she'll ask again, you'll give her lips like sugar, sugar kisses, lips like sugar, sugar kisses.
Yeah, in some ways it does feel like a bit like, you could hear, was it Ray Manzarek from the Doors playing?
Yeah.
That
it's really interesting on these tracks because I feel like some of them they pulled the organs off or back, and some of them they put organs on these the tracks. It was interesting.
Yeah,
because we get to Ray and he played on Bed Bugs and Ballyhoo, the original.
Okay.
And I kind of pulled that back on the version that's on here, but we'll get to that.
Right.
But yeah. So I think that you're right. That is a difference on here. I think it's still pretty close overall to the original.
It's fairly similar. Yeah.
It's one of the ones on here that's the closest to the original. I liked it a lot. I think the original was more raw in a way, even though it was very produced. It was off one of the most produced albums, that Echo and the Bunnymen self-titled album. They did what a lot of bands did, which was, okay, we're gonna give it our best shot to be radio friendly. And then they broke up not long after the album. But I think I might lean to the original a little bit because of that. But I looked into the lyrics a little bit, but I really didn't have many notes on it other than it's,
Yeah, it's a song of yearning and longing, of maybe a bit of infatuation. You've got the swan theme, the swan imagery introduced in the first verse. She floats like a swan, grace on the water. Just when you think you've caught her, she glides across the water. She calls for you tonight to share her moonlight. You'll flow down her river. She'll ask and you'll give her lips like sugar, sugar kisses. In some ways, it's almost an infatuation, maybe wanting something that you can't have. A relationship that may be elusive, and yet it's sweet. The sugar kisses are going to be fleeting. It may not be something that's long lasting, but is something that's sweet and enjoyable in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I just remembered on the original version, there's like some sort of monotone-ish type vocals that were sort of characteristic of post-punk in the 80s, which the band probably hates looking back on. Because there were like these monotone-ish, and then I think there was like some echo vocals in this song on the original that were kind of like very like sort of drone-ish or monotone and like type vocals that like don't sound like singing. They sound more like I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it.
She knows what you know. I know what she's thinking. Sugar kissing, sugar kissing. Just when you think she's yours, she's flown to other shores to laugh at how you break. Now into this lake, you flow down the river, and you never give lips like sugar, sugar kisses. Lips like sugar, sugar kisses.
So I'm sure the band probably looks back and it's like, okay, we fixed this. We fixed the vocals on this.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't really have too much to say on the lyrics. I think it's like they're really cool poetic lyrics about
Mhm.
chasing after an elusive romantic interest or something like that. But and like
Right.
you made a really good point about the lips like sugar, that like momentary sweetness, that maybe isn't lasting, but and then she flies away again, right?
Right.
Okay, unless you have something else on that one, we
Let's
jump
go.
into Rescue. This was one of their
Yeah.
earliest tracks, I think.
It
Might have
is.
been
Yep.
their first single, I believe. It was their first single, maybe. So my thoughts were he's very confused on the song. And lyric wise, he's very confused. And he's looking for somebody to counsel him or reflect back with him. But
We talked earlier about his spirituality and how songs are sometimes like a confessional. And I think there's a way in which these lyrics really pull out that sense of the confessional and almost a prayer like. If I said I lost my way, would you sympathize? Could you sympathize? I'm jumbled up, maybe losing my touch. And then you get to the chorus. Won't you come down to my rescue? Won't you come down to my rescue? I mean, if that isn't a prayer, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's the the desperation
Mhm.
prayer,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, my thoughts are jumbled up. I'm not thinking straight. Like, I need help. Can you help me?
Mhm.
But
And then the close of this song, both versions, we get to, is this the blues I'm singing? Is this the blues I'm singing?
yeah.
Which I gotta be honest, the first time I heard the Crocodiles version, I'm scratching my head because post-punk and blues are like not even in the same musical palette to my ears lyrically. Yeah, this could definitely be a blues song, but sonically this isn't. I think the new arrangement on The Stars, the Oceans, and the Moon gets closer to something that where those words, is this blues I'm singing, feels more natural with the newer arrangement.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Again, I lean a little towards the original, but that's just because this, was one of the first songs I heard and sort of that timestamp of my experience and the love of post-punk and sort of what it was characterized by in the 80s. But I think you're right. This version has sort of a closer feel to what he's singing about and
Yeah.
his repeated refrain of, is this the blues I'm singing? One of their live versions of the song, he says, is this the blues I'm singing? And he does that part. And then at the end, he says, you bet. You bet it's the blues I'm singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While I like the, like I've talked about the arrangement of the new version, the blues line seems to fit a little bit better. There is something in the original version off Crocodiles with that opening guitar part, that kind of echoey, bouncy guitar. Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
Right. That is such a youthful early 80s vibe in that. That just sounds really good. I really like it. I think I like that opening in the original more so than the newer version.
If I said I'd lost my way.
Yeah, it's hard for me to keep them straight. How does this version start?
The transformed version starts with that same part, but
It's more muted.
it is
the
more
guitar
muted
part.
and it
Yeah.
rolls a little bit more. It doesn't have that bounce, that kind of echoey
Mhm.
bounce that
Yeah.
you get in the Crocodiles version.
If I said
For that reason, I think there's something in that Crocodiles arrangement that maybe does capture some of the franticness of the lyrics.
Mm-hmm. This is a great song. I love the way this sort of tempo of the song changes when they
Mhm.
get to "Won't You Come On Down to My Rescue." It's almost like a different song when it gets to the part
Mhm.
of "Won't You Come On Down to My Rescue." It like comes in with sort of a different tempo or cadence. I don't know how to
Mhm.
say it even, which was
Slow
kind
the
of
tempo.
characteristic of a lot of post-punk music. Is like, okay, we're gonna just completely flip it around at this part of the song
Mhm.
and do something that normally musicians wouldn't do. But yeah, that's true. It's got that sort of bass jumpiness like in the original version that really makes it stand out, as a
Yeah.
post-punk number.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing the first time I heard it. I was like, is this the blues I'm singing? It's like,
Mhm.
this isn't blues at all. The song.
Yeah,
Like you said, lyrically, though,
it
kind of
is.
is, you know?
Yeah. On the transformed version, I think one of the reasons is this the blues I'm singing fits better on the transformed version is that, again, you've got that organ part that comes in and underscores and feels much more like a blues kind of thing than you get in the original arrangement.
Yeah, I would agree.
Rescue me. Rescue me. Losing sense of those harder things. Is this the blues I'm singing? 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 Is this the blues?
Like I said, I felt like Rescue was like this sort of confused cry for help, not a clear cry for help,
Mhm.
but like, I don't know what's going on, like I'm losing my mind. And then the next song, Rust, I feel like is a clear request for help, like it, you know, very specific and very direct, I guess
Yeah.
is the right word. I need someone to help me. I need
Mhm.
someone to touch. Like, here's what I need. My thoughts aren't jumbled up anymore. I know what I need. Here's what I need. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I'm bringing on my Jimmy James S. Butler interpretations to these that are, I'm sure, completely incorrect, but they work for me. So, yeah, there's something in these tears turning me to rust. I need someone to help me. I need someone to touch. This is a freaking beautiful song.
It is.
This kind of song that could bring you to tears, the music
Mhm.
along with the lyrics. I'm trying to remember how this song sounds compared to the original. I know the original so well.
They're both mellower arrangements. The transformed, I think, slows the tempo even more. The original Rust has, I think, accordion, if I'm remembering correctly, at the beginning of the song. It's
Yes, I
much
think you're
more
right.
of
You're
an
absolutely right.
organic, rootsy kind of arrangement with the original Rust.
Wish that you were here, down amongst the dust. Need someone to help me. You need someone to trust. There's something in these tears, turning me to rust. I need someone to help me. You need someone to touch.
This is another one of those instruments where they pulled it back on this song and then they put it into another song. Seven Seas, they put the accordion in on these transform versions, which we'll get to. So you're absolutely right. It's on the original. I remember the original being a little more, I'm going to use the word anthemic when it comes to the chorus.
Yeah, I can feel the stars shooting through my heart like rain, leaving all the scars where the pleasure turns to pain. Point me in the
This-
light of a bright and shining right direction, and then take me
Yeah.
home again.
This is one of those ones where the lyrics, I'm like, if you just read these lyrics, they don't make exact sense, right? Point me in a light, bright and shiny in right direction, and then take me home again. It's like you understand what he's saying, but if you just read that, it's not like an actual meaningful sentence. Or maybe it
I
is.
think-
Maybe I'm wrong. When I was first looking at this, I thought leaving on the scars where the pleasure turns to pain. I thought that doesn't make sense, but I wrapped my head around it and I understand it now. I think leaving on the scars where the pleasure turns to pain does make sense. I would think more like leaving scars where the pleasure turns to pain, but he says leaving on the scars. I don't know.
Well, at least the lyrics I've got say leaving all the scars.
So what
where
I'm
the
looking at
pleasure
is
turns to
probably
pain.
incorrect. And I
Yeah.
tried to look at a number of different places
Mhm.
because the websites are notorious for getting things wrong on lyrics.
The website that I went to is called VilliersTerrace.com. It's a Echo
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bunnymen
That's a good one.
resource website. They haven't kept up with all of the albums currently. I think it goes up through maybe The Fountain.
Okay.
maybe Meteorites, but that was the source I went to for most of the lyrics.
I had forgotten about that website, and that's a really good one.
Yeah.
All the other ones have leaving on the scars, but I've always heard it as leaving all the scars where the pleasure is pain. So that's what
Yeah.
they have. But the rest of it is it point me in a light?
Yeah, point me in the light of a
In the
bright
light.
and shining right direction.
The way I always heard the song was that point me in the light, bright and shiny in right direction. That was all one phrase.
Yeah.
But the way it's on the other lyrics, it sounds different, like point me in a light, bright and shiny in right direction. That doesn't seem like it's the phrase that goes together.
Well, the whole phrase, and again, we don't have punctuation in this, but I think the first part is point me in the light of a bright and shining right direction. So bright and shining modifies right direction. So point me in the light of a right direction, and bright and shining describes the type of direction. But again, I think overall, this is a song of yearning, of missing someone. And in a lot of ways, I think it is a good follow-up to Rescue. The opening lines are, I wish that you were here down among the dust. I need someone to help me. Yeah, I need someone to trust. There's something in these tears turning me to rust. I need someone to help me. Yeah, I need someone to touch. I mean, in having just come from, won't you come on down to my rescue? Is this the blues I'm singing? These lyrics are a perfect follow-up, I think.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Where the previous version is a much bouncier up-tempo number, this is an older, wiser. I mean, this came out, late 90s originally on What Are You Gonna Do With Your Life album, right? That was a follow-up to Evergreen. So this is the second half of their career. So even at that point, you've got an older, wiser Ian McCullough writing this. And then with this 2018 arrangement, we've got a man looking back on his life and missing and longing for someone that he wishes was there.
There's so many great lines in these lyrics. Give me one more try and I'll come flaking back to you. I know the lines are showing. I can't keep them in, like everybody's story. It's written on the skin.
Yep.
Just a lot of great lines. One of the things I remembered while we were talking about this is musically, when it goes into I can feel the stars shooting through my heart like rain, there's like this little guitar lick in the original that's way more prominent. And you can hear it in the transformed version, but it's way low in the mix. It's there because I went and listened for it in particular. And I think that was one of the things I missed in the transformed version that I really liked in the original. It sort of gave a musical feeling of stars shooting.
I can feel the stars shooting through my heart like rain, leaving all the scars where the pleasure turns to pain. Bringing the light, bright and shining right direction. And then take me home again.
But I do like the transformed version as well.
The transformed version starts off much slower and contemplative, I think, almost melancholy. And as you get to the chorus, you also have this trumpet line that is, again, kind of echoing some of that plaintiveness. It's not a bright, bouncy trumpet part. It's a much sadder trumpet part and kind of meditative, reflective sound in those parts.
Yeah, I do remember that. I thought that was a really nice touch, the trumpet part. So maybe this version reflects a little bit more the feeling of the song in some ways.
I think it does, yeah.
I think it does too.
This arrangement
I think the thing I love about the original was also sort of the thing that they changed that makes this one more genuine to the feeling of the song. Like I said, I don't know if anthemic is the right word, but the original was a little bit more like that. I don't think that it's an anthem. I think it's closer to this contemplative, like this sort of reflective lament, you know?
Just when you think it's over, just when you think it's done, out of every nowhere, you never see it come. I know the lines are showing, I can't keep them in. Like everybody's story, it's written on skin. So give me one last try, and I mess it up again. Wish that you were here, wish that it was then. I can feel the stars shooting through my heart like rain, leaving all the scars where the pleasure turns to pain. So point me in the light for bright understanding, right direction, and then take me home again. Take me home again.
I love the song. It's a great song. I believe I read, and you might have read this, it was one of the Oasis guys. I want to say it was probably Noel Gallagher sang backup vocals on the original version. I just thought I'd throw that in there. That could be wrong. It sounds right because that would have been the time frame when they were in a studio near where this was being recorded, and that I think Noel Gallagher liked the song and wanted to sing backup, and so sang backup on the original version.
That's cool.
Would have been around the same time because I think this came out in 98. So
somewhere around there, yeah.
That would have been right in the Oasis, probably in the second or third of their releases. But one of my favorite albums from Echo and the Bunnymen. If you haven't explored that one much, it's a good one to listen to. It kind of feels a lot to me the same as some of the Ian McCullough, the Slidling.
Yeah.
It's kind of that really laid back, soft, reflective, contemplative, touching type arrangements. So
right.
For anyone who hasn't checked that out, you should do it. So then interestingly, the next song is Angels and Devils, which is a B-side. So we're going back in time now because it was a B-side on Ocean Rain, I'm pretty sure. If you go into Spotify, it might be just included on there already as the 10th track. But I think originally Ocean Rain was the final track on Ocean Rain, and that was track 9. And this was a B-side. So I think I had sought out B-sides of Echo and the Bunnymen, and so I'd heard this. This is one of the ones that I think I love this version a lot more than I did the original. It just got this energy and intensity and this bouncy, like harshness in a good way, like in your face rhythm to this song that's on the Transform version. I love it. And I love the whole angel on one shoulder and devil on the other that you saw in all those old shows on TV where they've got the people telling them different things.
Yeah.
I love that whole concept in the lyrics of this. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, those lyrics, I appreciate the both and nature. So in the second verse, and I think it gets repeated later on in the song, so happy when happiness spells misery, and Mr. Me hoping to be where ugliness meets beauty. Hope if you'll see the demon in you, the angel in me, the Jesus in you, the devil in me. So that whoever this other person is, and I kind of imagine this as a kind of a romantic disagreement, right? That it's real easy to judge the other person and put all the blame, and it's taking ownership both ways. You know, you've got some trouble in you, and I'm good, and or I'm bad as well. You know, you've got the demon, I've got the angel, but you've also got Jesus, and I've got the devil.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And hearing those lyrics, I was reminded of Over the Rhine's song, What I'll Remember Most, from their Ohio album. 2003, it's a double album, absolutely phenomenal. But it's the second song on the album. So a couple of verses here. The biggest lies are the little ones, when the look in your eyes is the distant one. Angel or demon, you know that they can share one bed. I've laid awake so long, I've got them both inside my head. This is what I'll remember most about dying. So many moments like ghosts slipping through my hands in vain. You were 80% angel, 10% demon. The rest was hard to explain.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
I love that line, but
that's genius. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the angel and demon both lying in the same bed, and it feels like the same sort of thing. In fact, Over the Rhine may have been thinking of this. Linford Detweiler wrote that song, and perhaps there's the theme, from this Echo and the Bunnymen song coming through.
And the song, as it goes out, the final lyrics are: the demons in you, the devil's in me, devil on my shoulder, angels coming closer.
Yeah.
So there's that dichotomy or whatever, that like they kind of replace one another. One moves in, the other moves out, the other one moves back in, the other moves out. So you kind of have the devil and the angel sort of coexisting within you and your thought process and decisions you're making and, your actions and things like that. So
musically on this one, I think I really prefer the new arrangement. It sounds like it's a much fuller, more upfront arrangement.
Yeah.
When I go back and listen to the original, it just sounds kind of thin.
Yeah.
And there's a tambourine in the original arrangement that, as I'm listening to it in the headphones, the tambourine's almost distracting to the rest of the song. But the new arrangement is just much fuller and much more upfront.
The original sounds almost demo-ish to me in some ways,
which
is a B-side. So maybe it was, but yeah, it doesn't feel nearly as full, or it doesn't feel like everything's together as much as the new version. And the new version is just awesome, I think. So this was definitely one of my picks for like, this was far superior to the original.
So happy, happiness spells misery, and Mr. Me hoping to be where ugliness meets beauty. If you'll see the demon in you, the angel in me, the Jesus in you, the devil in me. Angels on my soul.
I'm not sure what went into them picking this song. It wasn't a single. It wasn't, it was a B-side, but maybe they were dissatisfied. Like, hey, it became popular. It's a B-side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Now we're to an interesting one. Bedbugs and Ballyhoo. I still remember the first time I heard this song. It wasn't one of my favorites from their self-titled album. When I first heard their self-titled, 1988, I think.
Yeah,
87 or 88.
I think it's 87 for that self-titled
87,
album.
Okay, yeah. This song was kind of an oddball on the album compared to the rest of the songs, I think. I really grew to like this one. I really grew to like the funkiness of it and the organ and the Doors. Yeah. It's sort of a Doors-sounding song. Around this same time, they did the Lost Boys. They did the cover of People Are Strange. And I think this one a lot with the guest appearance from Ray Manzarek of the Doors. He played the organ on the song. I really grew to really like the original version of this. And so it's hard for me to replace it with this transformed version. I think this is one of those, it's pretty even, but I probably lean towards the original. They pulled back the organ in the transform version. It may have it, but it's definitely not as playful.
Yeah,
in that original version,
not as
dun, 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 like in that original, it's very Doors like, and that's not as much in this transform version.
It is there in the transformed version. It may not be quite as prominent though.
Yeah,
but so the whole lyric thing on this,
like this one too. I'll read the quote after you get done saying what you're gonna say.
What the heck
He says,
What the heck
here's
is
my,
up with
here-
this?
Here's my quote, because it goes along with what the heck. This is Ian McCulloch. He says, I don't even know how the hell I made that crap up. This is from Songfacts, the website that talks about a lot of, it's a Songfacts interview. You know, they talk about a lot of meanings behind songs. He said, maybe it's about imperialism in a way, or the way people just cower when there's a bully, or someone who's giving you something and you're down on your knees saying, please, yeah, and then no. But I love it. He says, I don't even know how the hell I made that crap up. It's catchy though.
Buffalo and bison and buffalo, cannonball and rifle and cannonball. That's the way the thunder rumbles. That's the way the thunder rumbles. Down on your knees again, saying please again, yeah.
It's catchy, and you'll find yourself singing along with it, even though it's just, you know, nonsense lyrics thrown together.
It is. And I don't know if this is in the original version, but in the transformed version, as you get down into the last minute, he sings Jesus and Silverfish, Silverfish and Jesus, genius and gibberish, or gibberish and genius, genius and gibberish. I think he's just poking fun at himself with that last line.
I don't remember if that's specifically in the original version, that lyric, but I think you're right. He's just he's poking fun at himself at that point.
Yeah. When I pulled the lyrics off of Villiers Terrace, it does not have that line in it. The Transform does, and that feels like something that when you're singing this night after night on tour, you got to have some fun with a crazy song with these nonsensical lyrics.
Yeah, where does he say that on the Transformed? He says it
in the Transformed.
Does he say it before that's the way the thunder rumbles at the end? Or
it's just before. Yeah, it's just before the thunder rumbles. It's like just inside the last minute.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he repeats on the original. I think he repeats the first.
That's the way the thunder rumbles.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think he repeats buffalo and bison and buffalo. Cannonball and rifle and cannonball. I think he repeats that. Maybe I don't think he does the silverfish stuff.
Silverfish and Jesus, silverfish, gibberish and genius and gibberish. That's the way the thunder rumbles, way the thunder rumbles, way the thunder rumbles, way the thunder rumbles. Rumbles, rumbles, rumbles.
When I saw them in concert, he did a lot of stuff like that, just in different songs. It was quite an experience because you can see Will Sargent looking at him like, what the hell? And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like you could see on the look on their faces. I don't off the top of my head remember which song it was. It might have been this song where he went on this lyrical just meander for like 10 minutes while they were playing dun 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 dun, dun, you know, this song. And he just kept just going on this weird, and he talked about Jesus a lot. Like he mentioned Jesus a number of times. And they were just looking at him like, I'll be honest, like at the end of the concert, they looked like they were disgusted with him. Like, you did it again. Why'd you do this or whatever? Because he went on for a while and said a lot of weird, you know, it was really an interesting concert. He had, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but that reminded me of this. They set up a table for him. He sat down at this concert for the most, kind of half sitting, like on sort of a stool where you're kind of leaning against it. And he did a little bit of jumping around, which was interesting. But they had a table set up, and they had a number of different things on this table. They had a bottle of honey, a glass of milk, a pint of what looked like beer, a bottle of Pepto-Bismol, pink. You could see it, and a number of other things like that, like just all sitting there. I think he threw the honey out at one point into the audience. He drank some of them. He just did all sorts of weird stuff. But yeah, he went on this meandering thing, and you could see the rest of the band. I had a view that was, in particular, Will Sargent was just, you could tell he was like, okay, you went a little bit too far.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of those lyrics. We were talking about those lyrics, and it might have been that song. It probably was that song.
That's a trip.
I think it's just a bunch of stuff thrown out. Kangaroo and chipmunk, chipmunk and kangaroo.
Right.
But I love the down on your knees again, saying please again. No, no, no.
Yeah.
There's something so heartfelt about the way he sings that it makes me forget about all the gibberish that's in the rest of the song. And think about, I don't know, being bullied or being controlled or something like that. I don't know. You're at a loss now, right?
Yeah.
What do you say?
There's no way to parse those kinds of lyrics, and I think those lines in the end are just it's a tongue in cheek.
You couldn't think of two more things further apart than Jesus and Silverfish.
Right. Yeah. But
and then genius and gibberish. Nice.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a little bit of genius in here. I don't know. Maybe there's some genius in the proclamation that it's gibberish.
Probably so.
And half the things that come out of artists,
have
a little bit of gibberish in them,
Yeah.
If they're being honest.
Musically, the song swings. The original arrangement in particular, it's a fun song. It's a catchy song. I can imagine it's a lot of fun to see that live. But this one just leaves me scratching my head like, what in the world is he thinking?
Again, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how the hell he made that crap up. Maybe it's imperialism. Oh boy. All right. Good. So the next song is interesting because on this album, on the Transform tracks, it's called Zimbo. And so the original title is All My Colors.
Right.
And it became, I think, known amongst fans as Zimbo. They referred to it as Zimbo. So a lot of times you'd see it as All My Colors, and then you'd see Zimbo in parentheses. Now it's flipped around. It's just called Zimbo.
Yep.
And some of the reading I did on this talked about that phrase Zimbo, and he was just coming up with a word to say. I don't know if you read that. I think one thing I read said they just needed a word to go there, so he started singing Jimbo.
Okay.
Maybe related to Jim Morrison. I think that's what they said, because they were very much at this time influenced by the Doors, and you can hear it all over. I think this was was this on Porcupine? Or Heaven? No, it was on Heaven Up Here, right?
Heaven Up Here, yeah.
Which was when if you've listened to that album, and I know you have it, but you haven't probably listened to it a super lot. It's very Morrison-esque.
Okay.
He is on there, the way he sings, and just the approach he takes towards the vocals. So I think one of the things I read said he was saying Jimbo, 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 Jimbo. And then they changed it to Zimbo at some point, when they recorded it. Lyric wise, let's say, do we do music or lyrics first on this guy? Because I have comments mostly on the music.
Okay.
I have comments on the lyrics too, but I do have a quote from him. He said, Zimbo is about the loss of someone and the fact that people hold on to things that have already gone.
The phrase "all my colors turn to clouds," right? Something that's
genius.
Colorful, right? Turning into something that's gray and overcast.
Yeah,
certainly fits. In the second verse, what do you say when your heart's in pieces? How do you play those cards and sequences? The box you gave me burned away nicely. And then the end, hey, I've flown away. Hey, I'm blown away. Definitely has a sense of, again, loss and maybe regret and grief coming through in those lyrics. I think both arrangements of the song capture that feel. This may be one of the more stark contrasts between the arrangements of the two versions.
Okay, so music-wise, the original version comes in with this rolling drums at the beginning, and then this like eerie whistle. I don't know what they used to make the whistling sound that's in the background on the original, but I think it really lends to the feeling of the song and the atmosphere of the song. The newer version does not have that. So for me, that sort of detracts from the transform version.
Yeah,
But
there's something with those toms that are just, they carry the rhythm throughout the original arrangement. And that whistle, I think it's a flute of some sort.
it's really interesting because it
yeah,
changes
it's
tone, throughout
yeah.
the beginning.
It's not a traditional flute like you might see in a school band or an orchestra, but it sounds like more some sort of an indigenous flute that has a little bit sharper edge to it. And in some ways, that echoing whistle almost feels like, what you'd hear in a spaghetti western.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It evokes something of that. Yeah. And the new version, the transformed version, is gorgeous and melancholy. It's very much guitar driven, but it's almost a dirge. The new arrangement is a dirge.
I would agree with that. And then as far as the lyrics go, the box you gave me, Burn Nicely, that always rings with me as sort of a breakup type thing. I don't know. Maybe the box you gave me of stuff or letters or whatever. I don't know. That's what it means. What do you say when your heart's in pieces? How do you play those cards in sequence? The box you gave me, Burn Nicely. Like I said, I think the line, all my colors turn to clouds. I think that's a genius line.
Yeah, it is.
And not they turn gray or it's like they turn to clouds. They're colorless and,
wispy.
Wispy.
Lacking substance.
Yeah, lacking substance. Yeah, really, really good way to put it.
What you say when your heart's in pieces? How'd you play those cards in sequence? That box you gave me burned nicely. That box you gave me burned nicely. Hey now. Now, now, hey now, 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 hey now, 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 hey now, now, now. Symbol, 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 symbol. Flying down, flying
I don't know. I lean to the original on this one. They're very different songs.
Yeah.
The two arrangements. So I like them both.
I think this might be one of the places where I do like the original arrangement with those toms that kind of drive the whole arrangement. There is a warmth in the transformed arrangement.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do like that, but I think there's something in those toms that brings just a little bit more energy and still maintains the plaintiveness.
Yeah. And I'm not sure this is a song that warrants warmth. So it's almost like a little bit of that echoey, cold, alienating type of arrangement gives you the feeling that's a little more consistent, I think, with the lyrics of the song. But
Yeah.
so the next one is Stars Are Stars, and that's off Crocodiles, their first album. There were 2 tracks off that on here, Rescue and Stars Are
Rescue
Stars.
in this one, I believe.
Yeah. This is an interesting transformation too. They slowed the pace way down on this for the transform version. If you go back and listen to the original version of Stars Are Stars, it's got a pretty quick pace to it. Starts out with the guitar playing a little rhythm, and this version is slowed way down. And once again, like most of the other songs on here, the original had sort of some hollow sounding vocals, and it makes them a lot warmer in this version.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases where I feel equally about the songs. I might lean a little towards the original just because of my personal musical preferences, but I really enjoy this transformed version as well.
Yeah, the transformed version, I think there is a much fuller sound in the arrangement.
For sure.
It takes up more sonic space, and it again feels much more upfront. Listening to them in the headphones, I can hear things much more clearly. The vocals are brought to the front. They aren't as far back. It doesn't sound quite as brittle as the original arrangement sounds. So I think this is probably one where I come back to the transformed arrangement is the one that I am drawn to more likely.
This song always reminded me of like the type of song that U2 would write early on. It's sort of a cradle to grave song, lyric wise. It's talking about the sky seems full when you're in the cradle. The rain will fall and wash your dreams. And then, later in the song, it says, I saw you climb, shadows on the trees. We lost some time after things that never matter.
Yeah.
And it has this one refrain, who'll remember now that you've gone away. And so it's sort of like this course of life. When you're in the cradle, it's like everything seems possible, or the sky seems it's full of options, and then the shadow starts to climb on the tree as you go through life, and you you lost some time on after things that never matter. It's like it's like you look back and you're like, okay, some of those things I used my time for. Like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Even you and I can look back at that, right? Sometimes and be like, hey. We're at that point where it's like, hey, I sure did waste a lot of hours doing some things. I don't know. Those were some of my thoughts about the lyrics.
This one goes back to earlier in the album with the theme of dreams. The sky seems full when you're in the cradle. The rain will fall and wash your dreams. Yeah. Stars are stars and they shine so hard. There is a lot of content in their lyrics that has a sense of loss and longing. And even that in the next lines, now you spit out the sky because it's empty and hollow. Something that seemed like a goal that you were achieving is not what you thought it was going to be. So you spit it out because it doesn't have the substance.
Yeah. And then it says the stars shine so cold at the end of that verse.
Yeah.
So it's like these things that most people look in awe at and they're so beautiful. It's like this is talking about how they shine so hard and they shine so cold.
I caught that falling star. It cut my hands to pieces. Where did I put that box? It had my name in it. And here's, a line to the box that we were just reading about, the box that burned in the previous lyric.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Some of these themes that kind of carry forward from one song to the next. And
and then it says the cogs have clicked and the clocks will have their say. In the making of a day, you came here late, you go home early. Who'll remember? And then it goes into this like really eerie sounding, like now you've gone away. It like draws it out when he sings it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Maybe it's a lot more stark in the original version.
Stars and they shine
a little more reflective and wise in a sort of reflection in the transformed version, I think.
Yeah, right.
The sky seems full with you in the cradle. The rain will fall and wash your dreams. Stars and stars, and they shine so hard. Now you spit out the sky because it's empty and hollow. All your dreams are hanging out to dry. Stars and stars, they shine so cold. I saw you climb, shadows on the trees. We lost some time after things never mattered.
So next up, Seven Seas. So this one, they got an accordion leading it off. So they put accordion into this one on the new arrangement, excuse me. Yeah, on the transformed arrangement. This was one of the ones, there were two in particular on this album that I liked much better than the originals. One was Angels and Devils, and this was the other one. I thought it was really interesting what they did. They have the accordion in this, but not only that, but they really changed some of the chords in this song. And I really liked the chord changes that they used throughout the song in a few different places. They're completely different than the original. And they really grabbed that music filling place in you. So I really like this version a lot.
I liked it. And I think this is another lyric where a little bit slower tempo and the warmer arrangement suits the lyrical content pretty well. I'll say I read two different reviews where it talked about this arrangement, and two different reviewers called the transformed arrangement a sea shanty.
Yes, I read that too.
That to me just feels incredibly lazy.
Yeah, I didn't.
Because
I felt the
you've
same
got the
way.
accordion and it references the ocean. Well, therefore, it must be a sea shanty. Well, I mean, come on. A sea shanty is a work song that sailors sing.
Yeah.
It's not a sea shanty. And that to me just feels like lazy journalism.
Yeah.
Allmusic.com review had that line. And there was a review from which journal? Mancunian.com referenced that the Seven Seas jangly guitars are replaced by an accordion, turning the song into a left field sea shanty that it always threatened to be. What?
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I read both of those and I had the same reaction. I'm like, wait a minute, there's an accordion and it's called Seven Seas, and talking about swimming in the ocean. It's like, oh, so therefore it's a sea shanty. Like, it doesn't sound anything like a sea shanty. It doesn't sound like one. It also doesn't lyrically represent one. So, like,
not
what
at
are you
all
talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
That sort of thing makes me distrust the reviewer more so than it
and it bothered me because they were panning it, the version, and I was like, wait, this is one of the ones I actually preferred to the original. So they didn't mention anything about some of the differences in chord changes and stuff. There's little twists that like really grab you. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the original was musically was a completely different type of song.
Stab a sorry heart with your favorite finger. Paint the whole world blue and stop your tears from stinging. Hear the cavemen singing, good news they're bringing. Seven seas, swimming them so well.
there's some things about the original that I miss in the transformed version, but like I said, overall, I think the transformed version captures the feeling a little truer for me.
Yeah.
I like sort of pulled into the song a little more
Mm-hmm.
than I am the original.
Yeah, I think the newer arrangement, the transformed arrangement, benefits from the distance and the time. You hear more of the age and wisdom of the protagonist in the new arrangement, whereas you get the jaunty, jangly guitars in the original that don't quite seem to. I don't know, maybe it is the growing and maturing, right? Because maybe in that earlier version, this is a positive, forward looking kind of song that confronts challenges and overcomes. It starts off with a bit of a regret, stab a sorry heart with your favorite finger, paint the whole world blue and stop your ears from stinging, hear the caveman singing. But then the repeated verse or the chorus that we hear throughout the song, seven
Twisters.
seas, swimming them so well, glad to see my face among them, kissing the tortoise shell. I mean, that sounds like progressing through the adversity. The second verse talks about, longing for a fresher feeling and belonging or just forever kneeling. There's a desire, a grace to become something that this song seems to get at. And I guess the original arrangement gets kind of the jauntier, youthful vibe, maybe a bit more optimistic. And the transformed arrangement is sung from the perspective of someone who has lived life, and it's not just a, hey, we're going to get through this. It's a, I've been through some tough stuff and it's going to be hard, but we can make it.
Yeah.
There seems to be more wisdom and more reflection in the newer arrangement that I think that.
Yeah. It's almost like the original version. He was saying some things with the lyrics that he really wasn't, he hadn't lived long enough to really be able to say yet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One of the things said, there's an accordion-led take on Seven Seas, which is a little too on the nose sea shanty wise. That's probably one of the things you read.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then, but what I was going to say is one of the other things I read says the lyrics refer to metaphorical seas that represent the challenges and opportunities we face in life. The narrator is taking a journey of self-discovery, understanding that it requires courage to confront the unknown and to build a life on their terms. They paint the world blue, suggesting the need to remain hopeful and keep sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I think another thing I read talked about seven seas, swimming them so well. It's like, okay, I'm doing a good job, like swimming through these different adventures in life and different things that are thrown at me. And again, I think it was a little premature, to proclaim, but also optimistic, right?
Right.
I'm going to kiss the tortoise shell. I'm not sure what the tortoise shell represents. I think I read a couple things about maybe it represents longevity or or terra, connected to the earth, embracing that, whatever comes my way, I'm going to embrace it. This is life. This is the experience of life. Love the transformed. I'll be listening to that one quite often now, I think.
Absolutely.
Put it in my rotation.
I love you for some fresh feeling, belonging all, just forever kneeling in. There's the sense of stealing without the grace to be it. Seven seas, swimming them so well, glad to see your face among them, kissing my tortoise, yeah. My tortoise, yeah.
We got a few more.
Yeah.
We got Ocean Rain.
Title track from that album.
Wow. Yeah. Title track from their Ocean Rain album.
Yeah. Starting sonically, it's interesting that both arrangements are slow and reflective, and the original has the strings already on the original.
Right.
Again, there's something in the new transformed arrangement that feels warmer and more immediate, and I think again pulls me in a little bit more than the original arrangement does. But that original does have the strings and is already a meditative, reflective song, in a song about, again, enduring difficult times, talking about being at sea with hurricanes and the ships assail and screaming from beneath the waves, sailing to sadder shores, all of that sort of thing. It's a song of enduring some really hard stuff, and I think maybe in some senses not sure you're going to be able to make it, particularly with that screaming from beneath the waves lines.
I think this is another case of some genius lyrics. My ship's a sail, can't you hear its tender frame screaming from beneath the waves?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, those lyrics are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like both versions a lot. I don't prefer the original, but I think the original is a little more fragile. If you listen to the original version, I think there's times when it's really difficult to even hear his lyrics. They're very low.
All at sea again, and now my hurricanes have brought down this ocean rain to bathe me again. My ship's a sail, can you hear its tender frame screaming from beneath the waves, screaming from beneath the waves. All hands on deck at dawn, sailing to sadder shores. Your port in my heavy storms harbors the blackest thoughts.
Whenever I'm listening to this album, when I come to this song, a lot of times I turn it up. It's just so fragile and tender, and the vocals are set so low.
Yeah.
And I don't think it takes away from the transformed version. I just think that's a little bit of a difference. But I think the transformed is better in some ways, as far as like he sort of goes into some wailing on the original version that's maybe sounds a little bit discomforting, I guess, maybe, and it's not in a good way. But yeah, so I have different things about these different versions that I like better than the other.
Both have strings on them.
Right.
Listening to the two, the original arrangement, I can imagine somebody standing in a concert hall, being backed by the orchestra and with the band, singing to a huge room. And in the transformed version, there is an intimacy and an immediacy that feels much more connected person to person rather than an individual singing to a whole room. Those are the visuals that come to mind as I listen to those two arrangements. And I think for that immediacy and intimacy of the transformed version, that's why I am pulled that way.
I kind of feel like that's what the goal was, to do that, a more intimate version, a more warmer, upfront vocals. I want you to hear what I'm saying,
right?
In this version.
All at sea again, now your hurricanes brought down this ocean wave to be you again. Your ship's a sail, I can hear its tender frame screaming from beneath the waves, screaming from beneath my waves. All hands on deck at dawn, sailing to sadder shore. Your port in my heavy storm harbors the blackest thought.
like this is the album that Ian McCulloch has infamously said is the greatest album ever written. I don't know if you've heard that or if he said that about this album.
Yeah.
He proclaimed that from the beginning. I think he's proclaimed The Killing Moon, which we'll get to, as the greatest song ever written.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this album maybe was ahead of its time a little bit in some ways, at least for Echo and the Bunnymen.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really is a beautiful, deep album that it might have even fit better into the 90s in some ways. I don't know why I think that. I just feel that for some reason, like it's, you throw this in the early 90s or early to mid 90s alongside Radiohead. It was really interesting that it came out when it came out in that time frame.
I think there's also, considering that there's strings, all over several of the songs on Ocean Rain, that you see the record label investing more in the band, whereas the earlier albums, you've got much more a rock and roll band, post-punk thing with, guitar, drums, bass, singer doing their thing, but now we're getting strings. That's going to cost some coin. And it's, I think Ocean Rain, no doubt it's a masterpiece and there's some wonderful songs, but it's also much more produced, I think, than the albums that come before it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's definitely a stark difference between Porcupine and Heaven Up Here and even Crocodiles to this album.
Yeah.
So we're getting there. We got 3 more.
Getting closer. Yep.
We got 3 more. Instead of 3 albums worth of Sam Phillips, this is a much more chewable portion than what we did with Sam Phillips.
True, but you realize we are almost at 3 hours.
But we're still in the same time frame.
Only getting through 15 songs, whereas before we did 30 songs in 4 hours.
I know. That was really impressive looking back on it.
That was a marathon.
Nobody but you
session.
and I know how impressive that was. But we're doing good.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
Okay, so we have The Cutter.
Yeah.
This is probably the song for me that sounds the most like the original. It's pretty similar. There you can hear some differences, but this is one of the ones I think probably in some of the reviews I read where they were said, it'll make Echo and the Bunnymen fans wonder why they even redid it. Because it sounds the same.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, I think it sounds fuller, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
I think this one is such a fan classic, I think, that it's probably going to be hard for most Echo and the Bunnymen diehard fans to embrace a new version.
Yeah.
I mean,
for diehards, it may be, and there definitely is something, as we talk about matching lyric with the arrangement, that I think there's something in the original that really gels well. But there again is a fullness and a richness that's much more present in the new arrangement. It feels much more in your face, I think, than the original arrangement does. And yes, there are some strong similarities, but it's, I don't know, in a lot of ways I really like the new arrangement of The Cutter.
Who's on the 7th floor, brewing alternatives? What's in the bottom drawer, waiting for things to give? Spare us the cutter, spare us the cutter, couldn't cut the mustard. Conjuring myself until I see another head on 14. Say we can, say we will, not just another drop in the ocean.
Yeah, I like both of them. This is another one of those. There's things I like about the original, and there's things I like about the new version. I probably would lean towards the original a little bit, but it's not like super, heavy one way or the other. I think the lyrics are really interesting. Did you read about different interpretations of the lyrics at all?
I have not read any background on these lyrics, no.
While we were talking about this, I was looking up the Notorious Sinners album. Are you familiar with the Notorious Sinners? Hold on a second.
No, I don't think so.
I mentioned it when he and I were talking.
I thought I had almost everything.
Okay, you should check this out. This was a band. Chris and I talked about it when I had him on, and he was like working at a church, and the guys who played in the like basically the church band with him, like, hey, we want to get together and play some music that's not church music or whatever. And he's like, okay, we'll do this. So he said like one thing led to another, and they recorded an album, and this was it. It's called Notorious Sinners. And I always think of it because it's got this song Drop in the Ocean. Whenever I hear this Cutter song, I think of this.
Yeah.
And they may have been pulled from that. I didn't get a chance to ask Chris, but yeah, if you haven't heard this, it's a really good. We'll get you hooked up. It might be on Bandcamp.
Definitely.
I can't remember if he's got it on Bandcamp or not. It's a really good album. You'd really like it.
Okay.
It's kind of in between. It's kind of post-punky a little bit, but I think it's kind of Tom Petty-ish.
Okay.
So then back to the Cutter. I read some things about it. Okay, so one of the things said that the Cutter was a term for money from Apocalypse Now. I don't know how much weight that carries. In terms of the lyrical context of this song. It could, but it says, who's on the 7th floor brewing alternatives? What's in the bottom drawer waiting for things to give? Spare us the cutter, couldn't cut the mustard. And then conquering myself until I see another hurdle approaching. Say we can, say we will, not just another drop in the ocean. And some of the things I read said, the 7th floor, it refers to a certain building, and I don't remember what it was. It's where recording took place. Like they would record, I believe, albums. So it thinks that that's what this is referring to. Somebody on the 7th floor is making decisions about what they're going to cut, what material they're going to cut from what material they wanted to record, and not just another drop in the ocean, sort of a reference to like we're trying to make our mark with our music. And then it says, come to the free for all with 7 tapered knives, some of them 6 feet tall, which they think refers to McCulloch because he's quite tall. Some of them 6 feet tall. We will escape our lives. Spare us the cutter. So they think maybe it's somehow referring to maybe that process of sort of trying to break through as musical artists.
Interesting.
But we have these really great lyrics later. Am I the happy loss? Will I still recoil when the skin is lost? Am I the worthy cross? So we got that religious imagery again. Will I still be soiled when the dirt is off? And whenever I listen to the song from the very first time I heard it, I've sort of honed in on those. Am I the worthy cross? Will I still be soiled when the dirt is off? Because it sounds sort of like some type of religious or spiritual reflection.
It does.
Yeah. So, and I'm always drawn to all that.
The happy loss, will I still recoil when the skin is lost? Am I the worthy cross? Will I still be soiled when the dirt is off? Conquering myself until I see another hurdle approaching.
This is a fan favorite. And so I think people are going to have trouble with the newer version. Like it sounds more produced and more fuller, like you said. I want to say maybe what was on this album, my memory says the transformed version is closer to what they played live.
I can imagine that.
Sounded more like it with the little bit fuller sound and guitar and stuff like that. So then they sort of bookended in a way with their new songs, right? You said we had The Somnambulist was the second track. This one's second from the last, and We're to How Far. And I've mentioned some of my thoughts on the song already. So if you have comments, musically or lyrically or both.
This is another song that got a lot of positive feedback from critics. And again,
It did.
is one where the band is able to rock a little bit more. We get more of Will Sargent's guitar playing coming up in the mix here. It's interesting. I mean, this song also lyrically starts out with that. It's almost a retrospective, right? Starting off with the line of "Look how far we've come," which is kind of an interesting song to put at the end of a career retrospective where they're re-recording old songs. We're looking back on our career and look how far we've come from where we started as these young punks.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And then how far do you think we've come? How long do you think we've walked? And there is a lot, again, and this is one of the songs where there is a lot of repeated lines over and over. But this is one that towards the end of the song, we get some of the moon, right? So some of the songs towards the end of this album have talked about the stars, and this one references Apollo 11 and the astronauts' journey. Like, here we are, like Apollo 11. We're all astronauts looking for heaven. And coming back to this song of a spiritual quest and spiritual longing, and the moon is kind of taking us off of this world and even some of the oceans and things that have been battering, and we're looking for something bigger and beyond ourselves, like the astronauts that are out floating through space. And look how far we've come, and yet in some regards we haven't come that far at all either, because we're still asking the same questions, we're still wrestling with the same big themes.
Here we are, we're all lost in the end.
Yeah. How dark will it become when all our stars have gone? And then later on, here we are, we're all lost in the end. How dark he is.
Here we are, we're all lost again. But how dark is the horizon? Yeah, here we are, like Apollo 11. We're all astronauts looking for heaven.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't put this on the very end of the album in a way. I'm starting to appreciate as we talk and read through the lyrics, I'm starting to appreciate more of the repetitiveness of the things, because I think there's a reason to it. Sonically it bugs me still. But
that's fair.
Maybe I'll get over it, you know. But reading the lyrics through, I think it makes sense. The other thing I'm surprised about is I was kind of surprised that a lot of the reviews and critique of this album, they were really down on the transformation tracks, a lot of them, but yet they love these two new ones, which are not reflective of classic Echo and the Bunnymen, really, like the sound of the songs. So there's a little bit in some, like in the Somnambulist. I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired.
I get that. You're ready to be a sleepwalker.
Somnambulist. There's some of it in there. There's like a little like sort of a rhythm in the background that's very Echo and the Bunnymen like. But for the most part, they represent sort of the last maybe 15 to 20 years of Echo and the Bunnymen sound. So I think it's interesting that they panned the transformation songs that sort of brought those songs into more of that sound of the last 15 to 20 years of Echo and the Bunnymen. And they're loving these songs that that sound like the last 15 to 20 years. They don't sound like the classics.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but that's sort of seems like strange to me. I mean, I'm glad they're not, like, why are they even trying? There were a couple I read that were like that, like, they should have ended a long time ago. They should have stopped a long time ago.
Yeah, which is fairly dismissive.
Why should anybody stop?
Right.
It is interesting to me that they put this before the Killing Moon. So I got to try to wrap my head around that, because it seems like it would have been a good album ender, like all these sort of reflections on You know,
Yeah.
how far do you think we've come? Where are we going? You know,
Yeah.
what's next?
In some ways, Killing Moon becomes sort of a coda for the album. It's such an iconic song. I think it's one that people are expecting, and the arrangement is such a quiet, reflective version. I know we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I think there is some merit to having it as the closer. It is the iconic Echo and the Bunnymen song.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. And as I'm sitting here thinking, this is once again a cadence. How Far is a little more upbeat and optimistic in some ways, even though it says some things that seem a little lost, you know, but it's optimistic. And then, okay, now we drop you back down to this, the Killing Moon.
Yeah.
So it's very Echo and the Bunnymen to do that as well. I think that hand in hand with this is our iconic song.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds like very good reasons why maybe that was put last, and works better than if they'd have put this last. I'm sure they put a lot more thought into this than I did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything else on How Far?
I think we've covered that pretty well.
I think how far do we talk about? How long do we talk about How Far?
Exactly.
How long? How long do we sing this song? You know, I was thinking about how they're repeating and stuff, and I was like trying to justify in my own head like how that was subpar. And I'm like, wait a minute, like we have 40 by U2, and they keep saying how long over and over again in that song, so I can't knock Echo and the Bunnymen for doing the same thing. But anyway, inside the reflective mind of Jimmy James S. Butler. There you go. All right, let's move on. Because nobody wants that. All right, so we got the Killing Moon wrapping it up. This is the song that Ian McCulloch has said is the greatest song ever written. So that begs the question, if you like the Transform version better, is it now the best song that's ever been written? Or is it just a different version of a better version of the best song that's ever been written?
A different version.
A different version.
Playing is safe, right?
I'm not saying better, right? Right.
Yeah.
What is better?
What is better?
Ear of the beholder, once again.
Ear of the beholder, a subjective term. Each arrangement has a beauty to it.
I'm going to say, this is probably going to piss some people off who are Bunnymen fans. I think I like this version better. And the thing that would tick some people off is I read some things about the original version, some critiques that said, it's so long, it just goes on. And as I listen back, like it kind of does. At the end of the song, it goes on probably a little bit longer than it needs to. It's a pretty long song, which I guess to its credit, I never realized how long the song was.
Right. It's nearly 6 minutes long.
So that's good. That means I wasn't like, oh my God, when's this going to end when I listened to it before? But now that I'm thinking about it, you know, I was re-listening to it and I was like, it kind of does go on at the end a little bit longer than maybe it needs to, especially when you set it next to this Transform version.
Yeah. But the original version comes across as anthemic in a lot of ways. It's a big arrangement. It starts off quiet, it builds, and then you've got this long outro, as you say. It just keeps going and going. And it's a big arrangement, but the transformed version, stripping it down to piano and strings, is again a quiet, more intimate, almost haunting, very spooky.
Yes, haunting's a very
sound
good word.
And feel to it. Yeah.
The original version, they had that sort of, shall I call it Middle Eastern type guitar work. So I think it said that Will Sargent and Les Pattinson had gone to Russia or somewhere. They had gone to somewhere and picked up that sort of guitar, ding, 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 ding. And it sort of plays throughout the song. So that's a really nice piece of the original that, of course, is not there in the Transform because it's more piano led. But yeah, I think the Transform version is much more haunting, and more resonating because of that.
Yeah. There's a quiet beauty in the
I just made a lot of
transformed
people mad.
arrangement. Right.
Of course, I'm assuming that Echo and the Bunnymen fans are going to actually listen to this episode. I'll bet they
Yeah.
will.
I think no
they will.
doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there is a quiet beauty that is in the transformed arrangement of Killing Moon. This transformed version is a thing of quiet beauty, and it grows on me the more I listen to it.
Under blue moon, I saw you so soon. You'll take me up in your arms, too late to beg you or cancel, though I know it must be the killing time. Unwillingly mine. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin, he will wait until you give yourself to him.
I do have some quotes from this one that I wrote down. Maybe you read some of this. While many have tried to define the song's sound and the meaning behind the lyrics, the truth is that, according to its creator, McCulloch, it's about everything from birth to death to eternity and God, whatever that is. That's what I was referring to earlier. He says God, whatever that is, and the eternal battle between fate and human will. I think he mentioned somewhere, maybe it's in the next part I'll read, something about predestination. He uses that word. He said it sounds vaguer than it actually is. This was in the Song Facts interview. He said, I never really tell people what the meaning is to all the songs because that surely spoils their journey. When they listen to something like The Killing Moon, there are so many different ideas of what that is about. To me, it's like to be or not to be moments. So, but I'm sure I read something else, I don't have the quote here, where he mentioned predestination as sort of one of his thoughts when he was writing this. So
you can kind of see that in the closing line of the chorus. He will wait until you give yourself to him.
Right. And fate up against your will.
Fate up against your will. Yep. And he will wait until you give yourself to him. Yeah. Is it fated that I'm going to do something? Do I have the will? And certainly those lines there certainly sound like it is directed to the divine in some way, almost a prayer in many ways.
Yeah. Through the thick and thin, he will wait until you give yourself to him.
Yeah.
It's a great song. It definitely is a classic. I don't know if it's the greatest song ever written, but
yeah.
Ian knows that. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. Considering that we are recording this episode in what is considered Holy Week in the Christian tradition, the last verse that says, in starlit nights, I saw you so cruelly, you kissed me, your lips a magic world. And, you know, in the gospel stories, you have Judas betraying Jesus with a kiss.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's just something interesting
that you kissed me. Yeah.
In this time of what's considered Holy Week, we're talking about this song. And you know, there's U2's song Until the End of the World is also about that same thing with Judas's betrayer of Christ.
Yep. I didn't know what that song was about for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when I put it all together, I was like, whoa. It's the greatest song ever. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we done it good.
We got through.
So overall, you're preferring the transformed versions to the original.
In many ways, and I think the transformed version is what Echo and the Bunnymen sounds like now at this point in their career, revisiting songs from their early days and bringing it into the current aesthetic of what they're playing with. And like we started earlier, I don't think there's much difference between re-recording old familiar songs and doing a live album or listening to live arrangements of a song where the band is tweaking and modifying and playing around with it. I mean, when you play the same songs night in and night out over a 45-year career now or something like that, close to that.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do something to keep the songs fresh and interesting and make them fit who the band is now, and not just, to quote Billy Joel, if it seems like I've been lost in Let's Remember, you know, they've got to be who they are now and not some nostalgic version of themselves.
That's tough for fans sometimes. I mean, I've been in a place where that was tough for me, you know, when bands, you know, came out with new albums, you know, being themselves where they are then. But
and that's one of the challenges I think that's you know, followed you too as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They are making music that fits who they are as men in their 60s,
I mean,
pushing
what was
70
Bono?
in a lot of ways.
Was Bono like 17 or 18 or something like that when Boy came out?
They were young.
I mean, what's his name? The drummer, Larry Mullins. Wasn't he the youngest one? I think one of them was like really young, like 16 or something. Of course they're not gonna have the same reflections and stuff. You know, they wouldn't write the same songs as they did then. And if they could write those songs again, they'd be different. You know. So I had another question about this album. Some of the things I read, they criticized Mac's vocals, you know, saying his voice is shot or he can't carry the notes he used to carry. Did you have any sense of that at all? Did you feel that?
There are a few places where it's not the same as it was when he was younger, but it's a weathered voice. It's a voice of an aging person. He's not going to sound the same. And I mean, for crying out loud, if Lou Reed and Tom Waits can have a career with what their voices have sounded like, you know, Mac is much more on key than some of those artists have been.
I could see moments in the original tracks where he struggled that he didn't on the Transform track, and vice versa. I mean, I think it's just maybe him, you know, there's a change in his voice over the years and stuff, but I don't think it was any more of a struggle on the new versions than it was on some of the things he struggled with early on.
Right.
You know,
and a lot of these songs are sung in a little bit lower register. But I don't think that necessarily detracts, at least to my ears.
I think any of the struggles enhance more than detract. Based on the atmosphere of the songs and what they're writing about and the style of the song.
It gives the songs a genuineness.
Character. Well, that's all I got.
Good.
What else you got, man? You got anything else for this episode?
The last thing is that it's now nearly 5 years since this album came out.
I know.
And I'm hoping and dreaming that maybe there'll be something new from Echo and the Bunnymen. Would be curious to hear what they're doing now.
I thought I read that when they made this, originally they were gonna make a new album, and then they ended up doing this. I thought I heard or read something that Max said that they were working on a new album. They hoped to release it like the next year, but that was like 2019 or something. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think they'll come out with something. I mean, they were touring last year. So I'm sure they want to keep doing stuff. It'll be interesting to see what it is. And that is going to wrap it up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed Mark and I's conversation. I would love, love, love for you to go to Facebook, search up Post Punk Heartstrings, and follow. You can find the link in the episode notes of this episode, if that makes it easier for you. I would love to get comments, suggestions, feedback of any type. As those of you who have listened to the previous episodes know, I usually close out the episodes with a song. And I thought it would be cool to close out this episode with The Prayer Chain doing their live version cover of The Cutter. I want to remind you all that you matter and you are loved. Therefore, go out there and love each other. Until next time, peace to you, fellow Earth babies.